Al-cademia, how artificial intelligence, blockchain, and machine learning can revolutionize scholarly work. With Samir Ceric, Blocksport AG.
Okay guys, good afternoon. Let's start with the panel. I've got three panelists here with me, and surprise, surprise, bit of the housekeeping rules. They know some of the questions, but not all. So what we'll do is we will get everyone to introduce themselves in 30 or 60 seconds. We're going to start with a conversation and the engagement, and if there are any questions from the audience at the end, you'll have the opportunity to do so. So let's start with my immediate guest.
So, my name is Entrit Metai. I'm the CTO of blockchain of NewCo Tech, blockchain-based applications, AI in order to revolutionize and create new aspects into our daily life.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Janulewicz. I'm an archaeologist and meteorite hunting. So my project uses drones equipped with AI. We've invented a new way to find the meteorites, and there's a token behind it which shares some of the revenue with crypto investors, which is how the project's funded.
Ognjen.
Hello, my name is Ognjen. I have a private crypto investment company, and I was organizing the biggest AI event in Europe that was called Wonderland AI.
Excellent, thank you. Let's start with the first question. How's the research funded and how can it be more decentralized? That's my first question to all the panelists. Jan.
I can talk about in the UK specifically. The money for the research comes from the two research councils. So they take the money from the central government, and you actually have a very small panel of people deciding which science gets done and what doesn't get done. So if this were on a blockchain, you could have the decision makers being the entire world or anyone who has a peer-reviewed position, instead of just a very small number of people giving the money to. It opens up, because this opens up a lot of problems. Maybe there's some research they like, maybe there's something they're interested in, and the money's not fairly distributed.
In Serbia, we have the same problem because there are a lot of scientists and a lot of smart people that are really involved in AI. And there are not a lot of investors since the government is financing all projects, and the money will go to the one or two projects. And I think at this time it's a little bit corrupted, and with the blockchain it could be solved, because all the people can see where the money is going, they can track the money flow, and also it would be good if they can make some votes that people can vote which project will get the money, so it will be fairly distributed.
So in addition to that, in blockchain we have, for example, right now we have DAO, decentralized organizations, where here as decentralized organization can name institutions, universities, they vote who should get funded. That means that we escape from the traditional methods with a centralized institution or specific funded programs for EU, for example, and we go into new methods where over there I can contribute with my project, but I can get funded from communities, but institutions that they believe that I can have the opportunity with my research, whatever that research may be, either it is machine learning, AI, or a web-based application using blockchain, Web3 technologies, I can have the opportunity to get the fund that I needed. I know, or either through a decentralized finance, I can get all the money that I need in order to create a project, and afterwards I can either return that as a revenue into my community by establishing trust among parties, such as ourselves we could be, or either way, it is something that was criticized as very positive idea in order to do so as a founding. But of course there are obstacles, and of course right now in EU, US, there are regulations that probably won't allow DAOs to so easily found research, such as ourselves. But we need to find those ways and how to overcome those problems.
And, you know, in your guys' view, how is research distributed at the moment? Who actually holds the centralized power? I mean, that's been a big question for decades and centuries. And then the question after that, I'll come back to this sort of notion of the ed tech and where it started 10 years ago to where it is now, where you think it's going to go next.
So, technology. So about the research work, everything is centralized. Each institution, university, whatever you may call it, has its own resources, its own sources of information, and so on. You can see that clearly from most of the projects that are being founded. You can see that in the dissemination or so on in the project, you have to say like, this type of information will belong only to me, which means that I remove all the other researchers from my work, which is the downside. Since, if I had the possibility to take all that information and establish it into a public blockchain, everyone can have the access into that, which means the data can be accurate, it won't be changed, it won't be altered, and upon that we can make use of other means to use those data like AI, machine learning, since right now we can predict better and more accurate what the final outcome might be.
Could I just bring in something else that Ognjen mentioned earlier? And I think on the previous panel we had a conversation on NFTs and real estate. And there was a question whether in our lifetime we'll be owning an NFT that owns our house. And obviously, as somebody who's in the world of business, SPV structures behind the ownership of the real estate has always been there, onshore and offshore, which kind of enables you to be more tax efficient and also have the ownership to be able to sell the shares, which is not a similar concept to NFTs. Now, Ognjen mentioned corruption. In the world of academia or in any industry, that's one of the big issues. And I remember a few years ago when the NFT market started booming inside the art world, many have jumped straight away on the conclusion that NFTs and blockchain will democratize the art world, which is a big question, but there are certain indications there. How do you guys think that this distribution of research, which is obviously linked to money and resources, off the back of the blockchain technology can really help democratize the educational space and academia?
Well, again, you have to look at where the money is coming from. You will see all kinds of scientific studies. For example, the tobacco companies are publishing research to say it's not really dangerous to smoke. It took a long time for any of the research to come forward. We see it along with the chemical companies are saying that their chemicals are not dangerous, there's no hazard to health, because they have the money and they have a small number of scientists and the publishers as well. The journal articles, like you referenced before, the people who own the journals, they hold the keys. So if they don't like your research or you're not giving them the right money, they won't publish it.
So you're saying like the journals are not dissimilar to the media companies that are controlling the messages that go out there in terms of the propaganda, whether it's pro or against you or any event around the world?
Exactly. There's a limited number of sources and also access to the sources. For example, my research, I need to access journal articles. I'll be paying up to $100 for each one. So, like, obviously, it adds up very quickly.
So, I mean, but how do we, let's bring Ognjen in to this, but how do we use this technology and the innovation to democratize the world of academia, in your view?
The problem is that today, like, you can buy an article, or you can like buy a media, like they'll write an article for you, okay? And the problem is that why I was talking about that, because like if you have the money, you can like buy the research papers and everything, and give it to someone who will write the good review onto you. And we don't have, the problem now is that we have a lot of informations, and people are like drowning in information these days. And we need technology that will like separate the good informations from bad informations. Because like if you want to search something now online, you will get stuck. Like,
but surely that technology is algorithm based, so it really depends who's built the algorithm to divide good from bad.
yeah,
I mean,
so we need a lot of people included. Also, that needed to be like supported by community. Community needs to see which project is money going to. So they also need to be included in foundings.
So do you think, the question to all of you, that decentralized platforms which enable every single player in there is the solution to it, rather than a single AI, machine learning, blockchain sort of product or technology that can address it?
Yes, I think that a lot of people should be included, and that all should have a right to vote, but then they can decide. When they vote, they can like see the results and decide, but they should like get that results and see if people like that or not. If they will love to include the money in some research or not. If they think that research is really good and the money is really going to the research or not.
So Jan, for example, how do you see, you mentioned these big companies buying their way in to sort of fund the research, hence to fund the answers and what they want to use in their PR machinery to promote good or bad product. How do we change that, and can we change that at all in the academic world or research world or in any industry out there?
Well, I think blockchain is the key to changing the situation, the way things are peer-reviewed. I mean, now scientific research, it should be peer-reviewed, but you think how many people can review it, and what is the reputation of the reviewers? With a blockchain system, we can verify the reputation of people giving the reviews. So if there's 10 people that say it's accurate research, but none of them have any qualifications, that maybe has the same weight as one person who has a high rating. And using these decentralized systems, it just ensures that there's no central body controlling what the truth is, because the point of science is not for one philosophy or one branch of politics. It's about the study of truth, to find out how the world works and how we understand the world.
So you're basically saying the community has got to play an important part, as well as the peers, in the whole thing?
Yeah, the community, like you say, has to play the most important part, but the way we get there is by building blockchain systems. They enable us to do it. For example, crypto in the early days, it was used on the dark web. Now 90% of dark web transactions are carried out to both parties' satisfaction. So it just opens the idea that you don't need any central governance. A reputation.
So let's bring in something that's very relevant to all of us, which is COVID and the global pandemic, and now the fact there's emergence of products out there that are testing your antibodies, and they're saying that if you have more than 1,000, you don't need boosters, or actually you don't need a vaccine, which is not something that pharmaceutical companies brought out before they started injecting the something into us without much of the scientific sort of research. How can the blockchain help people around the world in billions make an informed decision whether they need a booster or not, when it's still very hard to access and it's still very much controlled by the pharma industry?
Well, I know in Germany they published what were called the panic papers, where I strongly disagreed with what the government was doing with these lockdowns. They were distributing information to young people saying that you might kill your grandparents or it's really dangerous. but people didn't have the opportunity to look at where the research is coming from or to even realize it was coming from the government.
Okay, what do you guys say?
For me, for example, you can then contribute into a more unified platform where there everyone has the ability to contribute. But knowing how blockchain works, we do know who has contributed and what type of content has been contributed into the platform, which means that I do know that me as a researcher, I have contributed into creating an article that says COVID is the worst thing that happened into 2021, for example, and then it comes another article, probably, yes, it says that, you know what, you shouldn't go out, or COVID is the best, I don't know. But I do know the source where it came from. Actually, it won't be replicated into the platform, for example. It's a one thing, I know it won't change. So based on your research, you will do as yourself. You will see that it came from a trust party. I know that he was a doctor or he is a well-known journalist. You can put down all the facts and choose for yourself. After all, blockchain is an emerging technology right now. We do know that we can store data there, we can retrieve and do multiple things with this technology, but of course we can regulate exactly what type of content is going to be distributed. Either it's a false message or a right message. It goes into your own opinion and your own factors or anything you might want in order to criticize that comment or article. And so you have the last word into that.
Okay, let's bring in one of the points I wanted to actually get your guys' views on is, I remember a few years ago I was looking to get involved with EdTech. Now, EdTech was designed to really disrupt the educational system around the world, which is very old school, and often by the time you've graduated, the knowledge that you've acquired at most of the schools, unless they're very specific, is pretty much useless. And I think they want to bring in the industry knowledge, they want to bring in this a different way of educational curriculum. Now, one can expand that into the research as part of the educational institutions and academic world, and in its own merit, something that stands as a silo within it. Where do you guys see the successes and failures of the numerous edtech companies that have emerged, try to challenge traditional education, and in most cases failed? And obviously using technology and using distant learning and all the things that the Ivy Leagues of the world and the Russell Group in the United Kingdom use as a sort of additional courses. So are there lessons to be learned from so-called the failure of the edtech that could be applied to this world of research and academia with the blockchain, machine learning and AI?
Because you mentioned machine learning and AI, there are multiple platforms out there at the edtech industry, millions, you can name them, actually. Why we could combine AI and blockchain is one major factor in order to start doing some research upon that, which means that knowing that the data that we are retrieving from the blockchain are accurate, we know their source and everything, we can use AI, machine learning, for better prediction models, which means we know which subjects probably will go on further into the future, which subjects have problems, how much time a student has spent into our platform in order to see that specific course, why that course probably failed, why there were 50,000 registers, and why right now there are only 5,000 using the platform. Knowing that the data are accurate, we can predict and create better models for AI and machine learning to use, and that comes into our benefit, and of course into future platforms that are going to be emerged, of course, because COVID is something that has came and will continue to be part of our lives, I believe, and we need to find a way how to adapt into the new circumstances, which is EdTech, one very great emerging industry, and we have to see how we can build upon the new standards of our lives. And one is that is distant learning, how we can use new platforms, and what technologies might be used. Blockchain is a very good way and very good factor to use, but we have to see it very thoroughly, how and in what pieces of that platform we have to use it.
And I think it would be important to see a good collaboration. For example, who would be building the platform, who would own it. So we would want to see collaboration from, say, the Ethereum Foundation, the Linux Foundation, and a few people coming together and leading the community, and obviously the community as well. I think if there's a community involvement, that is how you stop the project from failing, or you stop developing bad products. Where there's constant iterations and reviews, it will help. But I think we are not there yet. I think we've at least 5 years away from having such a system in place.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also think that we still have a time to to acknowledge everything and to see people need more knowledge about new technologies, and they need the time to understand it. It's the same like when Facebook was founded in 2008, and Facebook now.
Okay, let's move to how and why is blockchain important for truth and impartiality of science, and if it is at all today, or will it be in the future?
Like was mentioned, we can't actually regulate who is going to exchange data into the blockchain. We don't know if it is a trust party or malicious patterns. We can't detect that. But I believe there are a couple of years to come where we can actually identify those patterns in order to know what content should be considered trustworthy for us, and how that content will be distributed into the blockchain, who will have access to it, if it's going to be restricted for some, either it's going to be created or distributed as an NFT, for example, or is going to create some new method in order to validate and secure in a better way the source actually of those information, which is the most important part in order to restore and retrieve data.
Sure. Let's, before the final remarks, let me ask you one last question. We can start with Jan. Where do you see the industry in the next 5 to 10 years? What are your predictions and what are your hopes for where we are now to where you'd like it to be in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think now scientific research is done by a very small number of people, universities and companies. So I'd like to see it open up so that people can go and take funding from decentralized platforms, and anyone who has a good idea is able to progress. Like you said, with the EdTech, I see it becoming less important to study at a traditional university. There'll be more information available. You'll be able to access digital journals for free. For example, 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago, I would spend a lot of money paying lawyers. Now I can just look it up on Google and I will find the information there.
So you are positive and hopeful that the future is actually bright when it comes down to where we are today?
Yeah, I think we've got a long way to go, but I think it's moving in that direction.
Thank you. Ognjen?
I think people now are building and educating themselves, and now it's time to learn more about the blockchain technology and to crypto technology, and it's just becoming bigger and bigger, and now it's the right time to start to educate about it. But in 5 or 10 years, we will see the progress. I can't tell you, but we will see it, and I think it will be bigger, and the progress will be really big.
And you have the final word and the sort of final prediction and the final remarks.
So, for the future, as we've seen from main discussions here in the panels, we have NFT for property, everything. I believe blockchain will create a new aspect in our lives. Right now, what was mentioned is education, collaboration, of course, community-based projects that need funding, that need to move on. And who knows, probably in the research sector, we might have new NFTs. I don't know, buy the article as an NFT, buy the book as an NFT, unlock it with your private key, and you know that who owns it, transactions, everything. We're expecting great things from blockchain as technology, and yeah, it's an emerging technology. We have many years ahead of us in order to see it in its peak, and of course, I believe in its best that we'll see great involvement.
Thank you. So to conclude, I think we all cautiously optimistic. We all understand there is so much work to be done, and at the same time, I think we're very hopeful that the underlying technology behind blockchain will open up the sort of all sorts of industry, as we said, introduce more democracy, I think, which is very much needed. It's a tough challenge. It will remain a tough challenge. So democracy and transparency, because most industries that lack transparency also lacked major investments. And I find, you know, often when wearing a hat of an investor that if there is not enough transparency, I don't enter, because you don't really know what's hidden somewhere when it comes down to the investment opportunities. So thank you so much for participating at the panel. Wish you all the best, and we shall see you soon.
Thank you, Samir.
Thank you.